Ladies and gentlemen, I have an urgent and very important news update. Google has released the slide service on AppScript. So we're going to talk about that today, and I'm going to give you a quick little demonstration of how to kind of tie it into some other services. So stay tuned after the cut. So today I'm going to be turning this simple little roster into a Google slide deck that can be edited by any of the users in this roster, which is basically just a very simple Google sheet. Unfortunately, with the slide service itself, it gives you tons and tons of access to programmatically change themes, text style, presentation, layouts, page elements. You can set what the master slide looks like and then build a bunch of layout slides. You can insert images, all these great programmatic access points. However, it doesn't have, there's no triggers the way that there are with Google Docs or Google Sheets. So you don't have the, it'd be great if there was some sort of like on presentation start trigger and then it would do something, or um, trigger just something like that, because basically what this, the only thing that what this does is it makes it easier for you to kind of integrate slides with your other AppScript projects, which is still very, very cool. And I'm going to show you how we can do that right now. So I'm going to pop open the script editor here and dive right into it. I'm just going to call this roster builder. And what we're going to do, we're going to grab all of the values from this Google Sheet, and then we're going to turn them into a brand new slide deck where each person has their own page in the slide deck and everybody can edit the slide deck. I know a lot of teachers like to create one slide deck and then have a bunch of students in a class all kind of working on the, collaborating on the same thing. So we're going to just create a way to create those kind of decks just from a simple roster. So right off the bat, I'm just going to say get roster, and this is a very simple function. And I'm going to actually create the stub for the second function I'm going to need, which is going to be create slide deck. Remember, the casing doesn't really matter. It only is just something, it's kind of a convention that I've gotten used to using. So I use this camel case. Some people use underscores in there, or you don't need to use anything. The goal really is to just be as clear as possible with what your function is doing. So in the get roster function, we are going to get the roster. And I'm going to do that with the spreadsheet app. We're going to get the active sheet. We're going to get range, and I'm going to just type in the A1 notation. Sorry, it's A2 to C6. Let me make sure that's correct. A2 to C6. Yeah, perfect. Now there's better ways to get that range, more programmatic ways if you are if you've got a variable kind of size to your roster. But for this purpose, this will work just fine. So we need to get the values out of that sheet, and instead of putting a semicolon, I'm going to actually do a little bit of JavaScript magic, and I'm going to use the map function, which is going to take each row out of the multi-dimensional array that it gives us. It's going to take each row, and then we're going to return an object that we build. So it's going to take each row, and I want to get the name, and the name is actually going to be row with index 0 plus, I cannot type today, sorry everyone, plus a space, and then we're going to add row 1. And then we're going to get the email address, which is going to be row index 2. And all that's doing, so here I'm just concatenating these two things into one, whoops, I'm just concatenating these two into one value and then putting the email address in the second part. That's just a very simple way to kind of reformat the multi-dimensional array that getValues gives you. And then I'm going to call create slide deck, and I'm going to pass it that roster that we've just built. Now in the create slide deck, I need to actually create a presentation. And so there is where we're going to call our brand new Slides app, Slides app service, and we're going to create this, and we're going to just call it, let's just call it roster slides. And you can call that whatever you want to. You could even just get the title of the spreadsheet if you wanted to, and then you could just pass in, more dynamic title. And we're going to loop through that roster that we were passing into the slide deck. And I'm just realizing I didn't actually pass in the roster. So I'm going to loop through here, and this is going to be I is less than roster.length. And then we're going to increment through I. Very standard, very basic loop. And we're going to do two things in here. We're going to add slides, and we are going to share. So to add the slides, we're going to create a slide, and we're going to just do that on the presentation variable that we created, append slide. That helpful little autocomplete still there. One of the great things about them adding this service right into Google Apps Script. So I'm going to append the slide, then we're going to create a shape in there, and it's going to be a text box shape. But we're going to, in this slide, we're going to insert shape, and we're going to then create a text box. Slides app dot shape type, and I think we want text box. Perfect. Now we want to put some text in there, and it's a little bit more, it's not as straightforward as I thought it would be, but you actually have to get the text range of that shape, and then you have to set the text. And we're going to set that text to the roster that we've passed in, the I, which is the index that we're iterating through, right? It's going to loop through every variable in that roster. That I is the index, and then we're going to give it the name, which is what we created here. Okay, so we want to actually set the text of each page to that name. And just like that, we have created some slides. Now we want to be able to share this with everybody who's in that roster, right? We want to give them permission to edit their own slides. And to do that, we can simply access that presentation variable that we've already built here. Access that again, and there's an add editor. I can't type, sorry. Add editor, and we can give it that roster dot email, and that works just fine. That's one way to do it. However, I'm going to propose a couple of other ways to do it also, because these are just examples that I threw together. It actually won't let you use emails that don't really exist. So I'm just going to comment that out, and I'm going to show you a couple other ways to do this. We can do driveapp.getFileById, and we grab that presentation ID, it's right here, and we can set the sharing on the file. Now we've got a couple of access types here. We can do driveapp.access.anyone with link, domain with a link, private, but we want to do anyone with the link, and we want to give them permission to edit. So we go driveapp.permission.edit. Okay, that's a good way to share that so that everybody can edit it, but then we got to make sure that they all get that URL, and we don't want to have to send each of them individual emails, so we're going to go ahead and call the Gmail app and we are going to send email, and we're going to send the email to roster with that index.email, give it the subject of please edit your slide. And then the body, we want it to be the URL, which is going to be the presentation.getURL. And just like that, we're creating a presentation, we're creating a slide for every person in our roster, and then we are giving them edit permissions, and we're sending that link to their Gmails from ours. And just like that, we're making use of this brand new slide service. This code I'll make available. I'll hopefully provide a link below. Not hopefully, I will provide a link below. And if I can give you any other suggestions, or if you have any ideas for how to use this slide service or other services that can be tied in to this code, please contact me on Twitter. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know how we can keep building these kind of tools with Google Apps Script for education. Have a great Sunday. Cheers.